So, stop scrolling. Stop whatever you were about to do in the next 10 seconds, because what unfolded in a quiet town in northern Italy this week did not just make headlines, it quietly settled an argument that has been running for the better part of a decade. And almost nobody has fully understood what they actually witnessed. Picture the scene: a woman steps out of a car alone. No husband beside her. No supporting cast. Just her, in a foreign country, on a working visit built around early childhood research. And the roar that goes up from the crowd. A crowd that, in some cases, had driven and traveled 3 hours simply to be there, is the kind of sound you normally hear at a stadium, not at a research center dedicated to how small children learn. That woman is Catherine, Princess of Wales. And what happened around her in Italy this week is the subject of this video. Because while Catherine was being cheered through the streets of Reggio Emilia, something very different was happening 6,000 miles away in Montecito, California. A brand video that the internet did not know what to do with, a set of financial figures that explain a great deal about recent decisions, timing that almost nobody believes was a coincidence, and an Invictus Games organization quietly losing sponsor after sponsor after sponsor. Tonight, I'm going to walk you through all of it side by side. Italy on one side, Montecito on the other. And by the time we are finished, you will understand why so many royal commentators are calling this particular week a turning point. So get comfortable. Settle in. Because this is a story about two completely different ways of being a public figure, and about what eventually happens when those two approaches are finally placed next to each other for the whole world to see. And here is the framing I want you to keep in your mind as we go, because it is the key to everything that follows. One of these approaches is built on attention. The other is built on trust. One is loud, fast, and engineered for the next news cycle. The other is quiet, slow, and built to last a lifetime, even a reign. For years, the argument between those two philosophies has played out at a distance, in separate headlines, in separate countries, never quite meeting in the same frame. This week, for the first time, they met, and the result was not close. Let us start in Italy, because what happened there is the heart of everything else. Catherine, Princess of Wales, traveled to Reggio Emilia for her early years project. And for anyone who has not closely followed this side of her work, here is the context that matters. Catherine has spent years researching early childhood development, not because someone told her to, not because it tested well in a focus group, but because she genuinely cares about it. She has read the research. She has spoken to the experts. She has visited centers around the world, and she keeps coming back to the same conviction, that the first years of a child's life shape very nearly everything that follows. Reggio Emilia is home to one of the most respected early childhood education approaches in the entire world, an approach studied and copied by educators across the globe, which is exactly why she chose it. This was not a holiday with a photo opportunity attached. It was, in the truest sense, a fact-finding mission, a working visit by a future queen who intends to report back and build on what she learns. And it is worth pausing on that point, because it tells you something fundamental about how Catherine has chosen to operate. She launched a dedicated organization focused on the early years, on the science of those first formative years of life, and on the long-standing argument that investing in early childhood is one of the most powerful things any society can do for its own future. This is not a passing interest. It is not a glamorous cause. It does not generate red carpet headlines. It does not lend itself to magazine spreads. It is patient, unglamorous, long-term work. The kind of work whose results may not be visible for an entire generation. And she chose it precisely because it is serious. Catherine, Princess of Wales, has built her entire public identity around a subject that rewards consistency and depth rather than spectacle. That choice, made years ago and held to ever since, is the foundation that everything in Italy was built on. But nothing could have prepared anyone for the reception she actually received. The crowds were enormous. People had traveled for hours, not for a concert, not for a film premiere, but for a royal visit centered on child development research. And when Catherine stepped out of that car alone, with no Prince William beside her, just her, the noise that came from the crowd was something else entirely. She got down on the floor with the children. She was photographed with a baby who was giggling, wide-eyed, and delighted simply to be near her. And then came the detail that genuinely surprised people. She spoke Italian to the children. Real Italian. Fluent Italian. Because, as many people only fully appreciated in that moment, Catherine actually lived in Florence before university. That part of her story had quietly faded into the background over the years, and here it was suddenly alive again in a room full of Italian children. And the Italians, by every account, embraced her completely. There is a reason this particular tour resonated so deeply, and part of it is cultural. Italy is a country built around family, around children, around the warmth of the extended household. A visiting princess who can speak the language, who genuinely lights up around small children, and who clearly enjoys every minute of being there, rather than merely performing the role, was always going to connect powerfully with people. Enduring it was always going to land well in that environment, and she did. She made pasta. She was photographed cuddling with children. She moved through the trip with a visible, unforced ease. By the second day, the sense among observers was unmistakable. This was someone who was not only back, but back at full strength, and visibly happier and healthier than she had appeared in a long time. And here is the thing you cannot manufacture. The children did not politely approach her the way children sometimes do when they have been told to behave for an important guest. They ran to her at full speed, arms outstretched, as though she were someone they already knew. There is something about the way young children react to a person that simply cannot be faked, cannot be staged, and cannot be rehearsed into existence. Children are the most honest audience on earth. They have no interest in titles, no concept of public relations, and no sense of who is fashionable and who is not. They respond only to warmth, and they respond to it instantly. And every single child in that room went straight to Catherine. By the end of the 2-day visit, the coverage was everywhere. Royal commentators were openly calling it a turning point, and royal historian Hugo Vickers, a man who has spent decades observing the royal family at close range, described the trip as a kind of perfect royal tour. He pointed out that it was a genuine fact-finding mission, that Catherine would report back from it and apparently go on to undertake similar tours, and that it offered the public a chance to see her looking well after a difficult period of illness. He noted that people had traveled 3 hours simply to see her, that the trip was carried out with real dignity and real purpose, and that there was nothing about it that looked staged or manufactured. Hugo Vickers chose his words diplomatically, the way he always does. But the meaning underneath them was perfectly clear. This was the real thing. And the real thing is rare. It is worth weighing what that verdict means coming from a man like Hugo Vickers. He is not a fan with a phone. He is a serious royal historian with decades of close observation behind him. A man whose entire professional reputation rests on careful, measured judgment rather than enthusiasm. When a figure of that standing describes a tour as natural, purposeful, dignified, and entirely free of artifice, that is not idle flattery. It is a considered professional assessment from someone who has watched a great many royal appearances, good and bad, staged and genuine, across a very long career. He has seen what manufactured looks like. He has seen what authentic looks like. And his verdict on Reggio Emilia was unambiguous. Now hold that image in your mind. A woman alone in a foreign country, fluent in the local language, surrounded by children who ran to her, and cheered by thousands who had driven for hours to see her. Hold that image because we are about to cross the Atlantic, and the contrast is going to be stark. Right around the same time Catherine, Princess of Wales, was being cheered through the streets of northern Italy, a very different kind of content appeared online. Meghan Markle posted the new promotional video for her as Ever brand, and the reaction across the internet was swift and almost unanimous. The video was, depending on how you interpreted it, selling jam, marmalade, or a broader lifestyle product. And let me be clear and fair about this. Nobody begrudges anyone the right to build a business and promote it. That is not the point. The point is the video itself, and the way it landed. Viewers described Meghan Markle, dressed in an evening gown, touching her chest, gazing dramatically into the camera, and drinking tea in a manner that seemed intended to feel aspirational, cinematic, seductive, or something along those lines. And the comment sections genuinely could not work out what the video was trying to be. One viewer described it as the behavior of someone who believes they are far more fascinating than the rest of us actually find them. Another said it resembled an audition reel for a show that nobody had commissioned, and those descriptions stuck because they captured something real and something important. There is a gap. A gap between how Meghan Markle appears to see herself and how the audience actually receives her. And the difficult truth, the truth that sits underneath this entire story, is that the gap has been getting wider, not narrower. The harder she works to project a certain image, the more visible the distance between the image and the public reception becomes. And that is not a problem a stylist can fix. It is not a problem a new brand video can fix. It is the central structural problem of the entire Sussex project. And it is worth understanding why a video like that lands so badly, because the reason is instructive. Genuine warmth, the kind Catherine, Princess of Wales displayed effortlessly in Italy, does not announce itself. It does not perform. It simply exists and the camera happens to catch it. A promotional video built around dramatic gazes and carefully composed lighting is doing the opposite. It is performing warmth, performing intimacy, performing aspiration. And audiences in the modern world have become extraordinarily good at detecting the difference between a genuine feeling and a performance of a feeling. The more polished the performance, the more clearly the audience senses the gap. That is the trap. The very effort meant to make the brand appealing becomes the thing that signals to viewers that something is being sold to them. And once an audience feels they are being sold to, the warmth evaporates. That question, the question of where Meghan Markle goes next, matters far more once you understand what is actually happening with the money. Because this is where the story stops being about optics and starts being about arithmetic. Sources close to the couple, in reporting picked up across multiple outlets, have described something that explains a great deal about recent decisions. The Sussexes reportedly need a minimum of around $6 million every year simply to cover the basic cost of their life in Montecito. $6 million. And that figure is just the baseline, before anything extra. Reporting from Page 6 and other outlets indicates that around $3 million of that goes toward private security alone, covering the family, including the 2 children. On top of that sits the mortgage on a property reported to have cost around $15 million. The As Ever brand was, in theory, supposed to help solve that equation. The jams, the honey, the candles, the entire curated lifestyle offering. But by most accounts, the numbers are not adding up the way they would need to. The reception has been mixed at best. There have been reports of a candle arriving without a wick. The orange marmalade has become something of a running internet joke. And the overall sense from people watching the brand is that it is generating attention without generating the scale of sales that would make a meaningful dent in a $6 million annual operating cost. Attention and revenue are not the same thing. You can have a great deal of one and very little of the other. And the wider commercial picture is not encouraging either. The Netflix relationship has cooled, and projects have been cancelled. The Spotify deal ended some time ago. The various Hollywood doors that were supposed to swing open the moment they left the palace have, for the most part, remained stubbornly shut. Prince Harry by this point? By most accounts, Prince Harry is focused on philanthropic work rather than bringing in large amounts of cash. So, according to the reporting, the money is tight. And it is worth being precise about what that actually means in practice, because $6 million a year is not an abstract figure. It is a treadmill. It is a number that has to be hit again and again, every single year. Regardless of what the market is doing, regardless of whether the latest product launch succeeds, regardless of whether the latest deal materializes, the expenses continue. A working senior royal does not face that treadmill because the institution provides the infrastructure. The security, the residences, the staffing, the framework, all of it exists inside a structure that has operated for centuries. Step outside that structure, and every cost becomes a personal cost. And every personal cost has to be funded by personal earnings. That is the trade the Sussexes made. And the reporting suggests the earnings side of that equation is no longer keeping pace with the spending side. And here is the part that carries a very particular kind of irony. One of the core reasons Prince Harry and Meghan Markle gave for stepping back from the royal family was a desire for financial independence. They did not want the institution. They did not want the king to have any measure of control or oversight over their finances. They wanted to do things their own way. They went out, signed the headline deals, and announced to the world that they were going to prove it could be done. And now, according to the reporting, they reportedly need around $6 million a year simply to stand still. The independence they fought for has turned out to be extraordinarily expensive. That is not a triumphant tabloid jab. It is simply where the arithmetic appears to have led. But as uncomfortable as the financial situation may be, what is happening with the Invictus Games is a different and far more serious matter. The Invictus Games was supposed to be the one thing nobody could argue with. Whatever anyone thinks of Prince Harry, whatever anyone thinks of Meghan Markle, the basic idea behind the Invictus Games, an international sporting competition for wounded, injured, and sick service personnel, is genuinely admirable. It comes from a real place. Prince Harry founded it after being moved by the United States Warrior Games. And the cause carries real moral weight, which is exactly why what is happening to it now is so difficult to watch. Boeing, a major corporate sponsor of the Games, has reportedly ended its sponsorship relationship and is not renewing. That reporting has been covered by the American network News Nation. A major aerospace company quietly deciding not to continue its support is not a small signal. Corporations of that size do not attach their names to causes casually, and they do not walk away from them casually either. Every sponsorship at that level goes through layers of review, due diligence, and brand risk assessment. When a company of that scale decides the association is no longer worth continuing, that decision carries information. It tells you that somewhere inside a very large, very cautious organization, a judgment was made. After Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's tour of Australia, the Australian government reportedly declined to renew a substantial tranche of funding tied to Invictus Australia, a decision that reportedly blindsided the local organization. And the broader financial story has not always received the scrutiny it deserves, including the difficult periods the surrounding organizations have gone through. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom government has committed a significant amount of public money, reportedly in the region of £26 million, to support the Birmingham edition of the Invictus Games, planned for 2027. That means British taxpayer money is going towards supporting an event whose sponsorship base appears to be visibly under strain. And that combination, public funding, public money flowing in while private sponsors quietly flow out, is precisely the kind of combination that tends to attract serious scrutiny in the end. When the taxpayer becomes the backstop for a project that commercial partners are stepping away from, the public acquires the right to ask why. And then there are the allegations made by investigative author Tom Bower in his recent book. Bower wrote that Invictus Games funds had been directed toward private jet travel, five-star hotels, and transportation for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle personally. Now, it is important to be fair and precise here. Those claims have been disputed. They are allegations made in a book, not findings from any tribunal, and they should be described exactly that way. But here is the uncomfortable observation that remains. Whatever the truth of any individual allegation, donors and sponsors are clearly reacting to something because they keep leaving, sponsor after sponsor, funding stream after funding stream. The pattern of departures is real. Even where individual allegations remain contested, allegations can always be disputed. A steady, visible, year-on-year pattern of partners walking away is much harder to dismiss. For anyone in the United Kingdom who grew up with genuine reverence for the armed forces, and that describes an enormous number of people, the idea that wounded veterans might be overshadowed at their own event by the personal brand management of two public figures is not merely disappointing. It is the kind of thing that genuinely angers people. The veterans are supposed to be the story. They are supposed to be the entire point. The Invictus Games exists to honor their resilience, sacrifice, and recovery. Anything that pulls the spotlight away from them and toward the personalities at the top risks betraying the founding idea, whatever the intention behind it. And every one of these developments shares a single common feature. They are all attempts to control a narrative that has, frankly, already slipped away. And the reason it has slipped away is sitting in a set of photographs from Italy, photographs of a woman looking entirely at ease, surrounded by people who traveled 3 hours simply to see her. People often say Catherine, Princess of Wales, makes it look effortless, and that is true. But what is mentioned far less often is what that effortlessness has actually cost her over the years. Think about what this woman has endured in full public view. Paparazzi camped outside her flat before she had even married Prince William. Topless photographs of her published without her consent back in 2012. Years of relentless commentary about her weight, her clothes, her family, her facial expressions. Phone hacking. Endless speculation about her marriage. And then, last year, while she was privately undergoing cancer treatment, social media decided that her absence from public view was somehow suspicious and proceeded to dissect her marriage, her health, her appearance, and her whereabouts with a level of entitlement that became, at times, genuinely disturbing. It is worth dwelling on that episode for a moment, because it was genuinely one of the ugliest things the internet has done in recent memory. A woman was quietly and privately undergoing treatment for cancer. And rather than extend to her the basic human courtesy of privacy, vast swaths of social media treated her absence as a mystery to be solved, a puzzle to be cracked, or a conspiracy to be exposed. People who had never met her, who knew nothing whatsoever about her actual situation, felt entitled to demand explanations, invent theories, and speculate about her body and her marriage as though she were a fictional character rather than a real woman with a frightening diagnosis and 3 real children at home. It was a low point, and the way Catherine handled it afterward mattered. The way she responded to it tells you almost everything you need to know about Catherine, Princess of Wales. Because through all of it, she never once turned herself into a victim. That is what genuinely separates Catherine from so many modern public figures. She did not rush to share her diagnosis. She and Prince William clearly wanted to handle it privately as a family first, above all, for the sake of their 3 young children. It was only the sheer frenzy of speculation and conspiracy theories that eventually left her with little real choice but to speak publicly. And when she did speak, it was through a short video, calm, clear, with no tears performed for the camera, no dramatic victim narrative, and no carefully crafted story designed to make anyone else look bad. She explained that the diagnosis had come as a shock, that she and Prince William had been processing it privately, and she thanked her medical team. And then, in a way that is deeply characteristic of her, she turned the entire moment outward, away from herself. The message she chose was not, "Feel sorry for me." The message she chose was, "You are not alone." She used the most difficult moment of her life to reach out to the many other people quietly facing the same fear. No warrior branding. No demand that the world reorganize itself around her pain. Just honesty, quiet empathy, and a focus on others. She took the single most frightening experience of her life and used it gently to comfort strangers. That is a particular kind of character. And it is not a character that can be assembled by a communications team. So when Catherine returned to full public duties and traveled to Italy alone, the people who showed up in those streets were not responding to a public relations campaign. They were responding to 20 years of watching someone consistently and quietly be exactly who they appear to be, without ever demanding anything in return. And that, in the end, is the one thing that cannot be replicated. No quantity, no amount of brand videos, commissioned essays, or carefully managed media relationships can manufacture 2 decades of genuinely consistent behavior. You either have it or you do not. So, what comes next? According to recent reporting, Meghan Markle's next move is said to involve a vow renewal ceremony. The framing reportedly being discussed centers on the idea that the couple never got the wedding they truly deserved, that the institutions surrounding the original day denied them the celebration they wanted, and that a vow renewal would finally put that right. Now read that back slowly. They had one of the most watched royal weddings in modern history, with an audience of billions around the world. And the argument now reportedly being floated is that it was somehow not enough because the institution surrounding it was problematic. Insiders quoted in the reporting suggest the real motivation is commercial. A vow renewal generates content. It generates coverage. It creates licensing possibilities and potentially a documentary or special the kind of product capable of producing the income the brand is not currently generating on its own. And according to the reporting, around the same time, Prince Harry is said to be in discussions with palace officials about a potential return to the United Kingdom tied to an Invictus Games event. Those discussions reportedly involve guarantees of respect and special treatment for Meghan Markle as a condition of agreeing to attend. And here is the simple truth that almost everyone watching this already understands instinctively: you cannot negotiate respect. Most people spend their entire lives learning that respect is earned, never demanded. It is built slowly through years of showing up, doing the work, and not making everything about yourself. Catherine, Princess of Wales, has never once had to ask for it. She earned it the only way genuine respect can ever be earned. And if you remember what the Sussex's own Australia tour looked like, the controversy that followed the Sussex's Australia tour, the funding questions that came afterward, and the lingering sense that the entire exercise was more about them than about the people they were visiting, all of that explains why the comparison matters so much now. And according to recent reporting, around the same time, Prince Harry is said to be in discussions with palace officials about a potential return to the United Kingdom tied to an Invictus Games event. Those discussions reportedly involve guarantees of respect and special treatment for Meghan Markle as a condition of agreeing to attend. And here is the simple truth that almost everyone watching this already understands instinctively: you cannot negotiate respect. Most people spend their entire lives learning that respect is earned, never demanded. It is built slowly through years of showing up, doing the work, and not making everything about yourself. Catherine, Princess of Wales, has never once had to ask for respect. She earned it the only way genuine respect can ever be earned. And now the next chapter is already on the horizon, because Prince William and Catherine are themselves heading to Australia. If you remember what the Sussex's own Australia tour looked like, the controversy that surrounded it, the funding questions that followed it, and the lingering sense that the entire exercise was somehow more about the couple than the country they were visiting, then you already understand exactly why this next tour matters so much. The same destination, a completely different approach, and a public that remembers the difference. Prince William and Catherine are not going to do anything dramatic in Australia. They are not going to issue statements about Prince Harry or Meghan Markle. They are not going to publicly acknowledge any of this at all. They are simply going to show up, do the work, and connect with people genuinely. And the comparison will quietly make itself. That is the part of all this that Meghan Markle, by every available piece of evidence, never fully grasped. The monarchy does. The monarchy does not need to publicly defeat anyone. It does not need to issue rebuttals, give interviews, or fight back in the press. It simply needs to keep going, keep doing the work, and keep showing up. Eventually, the contrast becomes so obvious that no amount of brand management can obscure it. Think about why that is. A public relations strategy is, by its nature, a short-term tool. It can manufacture a moment. It can engineer a headline. It can stage a photograph. But it cannot manufacture a decade. It cannot fake the slow accumulation of small, consistent actions year after year that the public quietly registers and remembers. Catherine, Princess of Wales' strength in Italy was not the product of a clever campaign launched last month. It was the product of 20 years of the public watching her, testing her, scrutinizing her, and slowly concluding that what they see is who she actually is. That kind of trust cannot be bought, cannot be rushed, and cannot be reverse-engineered. It can only be earned slowly, in public, over a very long period of time. And that is the one currency the Sussex operation, for all its Hollywood connections and media sophistication, has never truly been able to create. There is also a lesson here about the difference between attention and affection. Again and again, the Sussex strategy has been built around capturing attention. The brand video, the essay, the network drama, the documentary, the memoir. Each one is engineered to make people look, and in the narrowest sense, it works. People do look. But attention is not the same thing as affection, and it is certainly not the same thing as trust. You can command an enormous amount of attention and still generate very little warmth. The crowds in Reggio Emilia were not there out of curiosity. They were not there to gawk. They were there because they genuinely admire the woman. That is affection. that is trust. And it is worth infinitely more, and lasts infinitely longer, than any quantity of clicks. So here is where we land. When you watch footage of Catherine, Princess of Wales in Italy, you are not watching a public relations operation. You are watching the visible result of 20 years of consistent, genuine work finally on full display for the entire world at once. A woman alone in a foreign country, speaking the local language, getting down on the floor with children who ran to her without hesitation, while thousands of people who had driven for hours stood in the streets and cheered. Meghan Markle spent years, by every honest reading of the public record, trying to become the star of the monarchy. Catherine spent those same years quietly becoming its future. And those are two very different ambitions with two very different endings. Stars depend on a spotlight, and a spotlight can always be moved, switched off, or pointed somewhere else. An institution does not depend on a spotlight at all. It depends on continuity, on duty, and on the patient work of simply being there year after year, reign after reign. Stars fade. Institutions endure. Italy was not the beginning of this story. It was simply the moment the ending became impossible to ignore. And no vow renewal, no essay, no network boycott, and no carefully styled brand video is going to change what that image from Reggio Emilia actually means, or how deeply it has already resonated. Stay sharp. Stay watching. Because Prince William and Catherine in Australia is coming, and something tells me that chapter is going to be worth watching very, very closely. I will see you there.